Work-related stress is another huge one for everybody. But again, the ones with responsive desire will be affected by the stress at work. The ones with spontaneous desire will not. So the problem with the work stress is that not only do we have to work because we have to make a living, we have to work in a particular way. The ideology that is significant to the American population and other people in the world is this Protestant work ethic that not only do you work, but if you work hard and you sacrifice and you give up and you accommodate and you go the extra mile more than everybody else, that makes you a valuable person. And what happens is that institutions take advantage of this. What they do is they set up this, like in academia, this happens a lot. Like they take up this ideal of working for nothing, that is the ideal. Like if you volunteer, the more you volunteer and make no money, the better person you are because you are giving to the community. Not in a system where I could be paid for that, but I'm not. And so where's the money going to? It's not to me. It could be to me, but instead it goes somewhere else. So it's a decision to make, but at least make it with the understanding that these systems are embedded in this Protestant work ethic type of ideal. And you don't have to abide by that, especially if it's creating more stress. Because if I can't sacrifice, if I can't say, okay, I'm not going to pick up my kid from school because I need to be at work, everybody else is at work, and most of these people aren't married or have kids, and I have to compete and I have to be the best, so I'm going to stop doing this other thing, that can create a lot of stress for us. Or the stress of trying to meet that ideal, because again, it's an ideal which is usually something that's unattainable. So that causes stress as well. Health issues, physical issues, chronic illness. You know, for some people this is not obvious, but I guess I'm going to have to say it. It can, especially with people that have a responsive desire, cause issues. If you have pain during sex, or if you have irritable bowel syndrome, or if you suddenly can't be touched because you have a rash all over your body, any of those type of things, or even like, decreased capacity, whether something has happened and we can't, squat like we used to, like all those things are going to affect the way we show up, especially if a squat is needed in the sexual encounter. Major life transitions can really kill desire because they create stress. Like if we're going to move, stress. If we're going to change jobs, stress. If we're going to have a baby, stress. If we're going to get married, stress. All these different transitions cause a lot of stress. And so to just expect that, for a lot of people, major transitions or change in that big significant way can cause them to not feel desire for sex as much. Before I said it was the inequities in gender was like the big one. But parenthood, man, parenthood has got to be up there, either tie or second place. Parenthood is difficult, and it's difficult in a way that creates non-desire for sex. It's difficult because you're tired. It's difficult because you're not getting any sleep. It's difficult because you have to give up every single hour of your existence to this new person. It's difficult because you're not sure of what you're doing. Your identity is changing. And so in all of that, you have issues with your physical body. On top of that, you're in this partnership with someone that's maybe not even having the same experience as you, or having different expectations about it. And so right away, there's some like distance there. Like, oh, you don't understand this, or you're not being kind, or hey, you're not letting me in, you're isolating yourself. So all these things. And on top of that, you can't spend any time together because there is no time. And if there is time, we want to sleep. All that starts to kind of pick away at the relationship. And the more stress about what's happening and the more distance, the less desire there's going to be, which then just creates conflict, because there's one person, usually the person that wants to have sex, that feels really rejected and really abandoned and misunderstood. So the parenthood piece is super hard. I tell my clients, like, you just have to survive. You definitely just have to survive. It's only like maybe 4 years, definitely by 7 years, you're going to feel some relief. So when you're in survival mode, be smart. Like if I'm in survival mode, am I going to add a lot of stuff that's superfluous to my existence? No, because I'm in survival mode. I need all the energy, all the focus that I can have to deal with this particular moment. So I'm going to be picky about what I do. I'm going to limit the things that I do. I am going to think twice before I say yes to something. I am going to figure out out the easiest, even though it might cost a little bit more, of getting groceries, for example. So anything that will help me just survive this moment is good. So really simplifying your life and looking at all those things I just mentioned. The other issue with parenting that gets in the way of sex is that we often fight about parenting styles. And so if there's conflict about parenting styles and you're not on the same page, or God forbid, you're worried that your partner, you always have to be hyper vigilant and kind of rescuing your kids because your partner can fly off the handle sometimes. And so you have that added stress. So that definitely will contribute to lowering of sexual desire. Any change in mental health is going to affect your sexual desire if you have a responsive desire. And I even think if you have a spontaneous desire. I mean, going through major depression is pretty severe. I don't think you can just bypass that easily. And for a lot of people, feeling depressed means you have no motivation, and that includes motivation to have sex. So that one is probably a big one for people, whether it's depression or anxiety or some sort of addiction or some dissociative disorder. And, changes in mental health will not only change how you feel and your outlook on life, it also creates stress because there's some shame involved in it. Like if we're suddenly going through a depressive episode, we're not going to think, oh, you're doing good, you're doing good. We're going to think like you're doing bad. And there's some shame in that, which is part of the whole cycle of depression too, or any sort of mental health. So the shame there can really restrict you from wanting to get close to somebody. So the shame of having this change in mental health, in addition to the stressors of having this thing, they compound on each other. I'm going to talk about aging because a lot of people will say as you get older, you're going to lose your desire. You're going to lose your sexual functioning. And that is true, sort of, but it's also not true for the reasons that you think it is. And it is also true for the reason that you think it is. So it is true that our bodies change. We get drier, or we lose our ability to become erect or stay erect. Those things are natural occurrences for a lot of people, just like losing your hair or losing your skin toneness or whatever it is. Those are real things and they do affect it. So yes, our sexual desire is affected by aging. It also is affected in a positive way too, because as we age, we start to gain resources, basically. Resources, whether they're physical, financial, relational, emotional. So the stronger that I feel, the better equipped I am to say, I don't want this. So as you get older and maybe there's some difficulty in the relationship, it might not be from a physical issue. It might be because I'm finally going to say, no, I don't want this. Or listen, I'm finally going to say yes to this thing that I've always wanted. Hence, aging doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could also be a very positive thing.